Hello and welcome to a new edition of Echo Africa, the weekly environment show brought to you by Deutsche Welle in Germany, NTV in Uganda, and Channels TV here in Nigeria. My name is Chris Alems, and with me is my charming co-host, Sandra.
Hello from Kampala. I am Sandra Twinobidio. Wonderful to have you with us. And hopefully we're going to inspire you with climate heroes and innovative ideas to improve the environment and also clean up nature. Coming up on the show, we head to Somalia, where severe drought is making life difficult for the herders. We also visit farmers in Britain who have reduced the amount of methane their cows emit. And go to Gambia, where researchers have teamed up with local people to collect climate data on the Gambia River. Electromobility is starting to take off in Africa. Many new initiatives are looking for ways to expand this sustainable technology. Now, in some cities, urban public transport is getting on board, while rural regions are looking at e-mobility cargo solutions. And Kenya is really taking the plunge by launching climate-friendly boats to cut pollution on Lake Victoria.
As dusk falls, Jared Otieno heads out onto Lake Victoria. Since he started using an electric motor, he and his team no longer have to breathe in exhaust fumes. And it's not as noisy either. Otieno is one of the few fishermen here who started using an electric motor last year. It's much easier. Before, he was constantly having to change gears.
Also, you have to be careful with the propeller turbine. So when it rotates, it might or may get contact with the manila, this string, or the gear. So removing it becomes cumbersome. With this one, you just do automatic, that come out automatic.
He only has the electric motor and batteries on loan from a company called Osobo. Every morning he returns the used batteries, and in the evening he receives a freshly charged set. Osobo rents out the e-motors for the equivalent of around €38 a month. The batteries cost €7.50 per day. The Dutch startup Osobo had to do a lot of math to develop this business model. They source the batteries and motors from Germany. Here in Kenya, they have technicians who take care of the repairs and maintenance. They also offer a 24-hour service if there are problems on the water.
The fishermen have to call the rescue number that we can resolve on call, but sometimes when the technical issues are not in a position to be solved during that time, we have to send our rescue boat to go, pull them back, or maybe change something, a component of the engine for that matter.
The batteries are equipped with GPS trackers so that the boats can be precisely located in case of emergency. Every new customer receives a free training session.
So it depends on
In just a few days, they learn the most important things. First theory, then practice on the water to get used to the e-motor. Joshua Maruka has been involved since the start and understands what the fishermen need.
The company will need to do some modification on only the distance that the electromobility cover. Like our fishermen, most of them try to go far distance.
Osobo is working to improve the situation. It's made contact with companies in Kenya and Uganda that refurbish used batteries. These could be rented out to the fishermen at a cheaper rate.
In these second life batteries, we will make them modular, so that also we mimic the current operations of our customers. That if a customer wants to go far, we give them more batteries. Then we charge this recharge fee per battery. Like you want to go far, we give you 4 batteries. You want to go shorter distance, we give you 1 or 2 batteries, and you pay for what you have used.
Osobo is the first company in Kenya to invest in e-mobility on water, and one of the few in general on the country's e-market. Electric mobility is still in its infancy here. There are some electric cars and buses, and even some e-bikes. Warren Ondange rides one of them. He's a member of AEMDA, an association that provides a platform for the nearly 20 companies investing in e-mobility in Kenya. The aim is to organize a lobby, urging politicians to promote electric vehicles.
People are excited about e-mobility and the opportunities that it brings. It has tremendous environmental benefits, but unless we have the right incentives to allow for the final price and value to the customer to be affordable, then e-mobility might just as well be another illusion that we'll struggle to get towards.
Around 25,000 boats are out on Lake Victoria every day. Many of them belong to Kenyan fishermen who use combustion engines, which pollute the lake and harm the fish population. Often the fishermen only get small silver cyprinids from the lake. And their catch quotas have also declined in recent years. Jared Otieno's wife and mother take care of the catch every morning, first drying it and then selling it as quickly as possible. The fish are the main source of income for the family of 12. They also use the money to pay the school fees for their 4 children. And they've even managed to build a second boat. Jared Otieno wants to equip this one with an electric motor too. He has a plan for his family.
Okay, my father once was a fisherman, then now is me fishing, then what of my children? So out of this one, I'm praying, God willing, that my children not to be fishing also. So they should divert to another system. That's why now I'm supporting education, provide a good education from there. If they're employed, they can change our life.
Jared Otieno has already persuaded some other fishermen to switch to electric motors. But he and Osobo are still among the pioneers of e-mobility in Kenya. It will take many more like them to see a benefit to Lake Victoria and its fish.
It is an encouraging start. Setting a good example and spreading the word is a great way to spark a positive change for the environment.
Absolutely, Sandra. And I have another example of that from England. The Towers family knows that cows don't just supply us with meat and milk. Their digestive process emits lots of the greenhouse gas methane. After trying out various ways to reduce those emissions, they've come up with a promising solution.
Cows exude a certain calm. They're also very intelligent and a key source of food for humanity. John and Edward Towers have a special bond with these animals. Father and son are dairy farmers in northern England. Their only concern is that their cows produce large quantities of methane, a potent greenhouse gas.
If we can't solve the problems that we've got within the industry and it's affecting the planet in a bad way, we can't produce milk and people can't drink milk. We need to solve these problems as an industry for the industry to carry on, because if it's not serving the planet well, we shouldn't have it.
There are some 1.5 billion cows on the planet. They produce a third of the world's methane emissions, mainly through their belching. This makes them a climate hazard. So the Towers are experimenting with a new type of feed supplement made from garlic and citrus. It influences enzymes in the cow's stomach and intestines. The result is astonishing. The cows emit less methane. The Towers receive regular visits from other farmers and agricultural experts. Like these representatives from a livestock auction house, the Towers want their visitors to recommend the new product so that more farmers can reduce their carbon footprint.
It's about 50% of most farms' carbon footprint is that enteric methane emissions, so it would then effectively knock our product down by about 15% in terms of the overall carbon footprint. This is the product we've been feeding, so it's a garlic and citrus extract. It is fairly strong smelling. If you want to have a little whiff there, don't get too close because it'll it'll knock your socks off. But
Alternatives to cow's milk, such as soy, oat and almond milk, have been gaining popularity in recent years. That's a trend the Towers find very concerning. Their family has lived in Lancashire for centuries. Farmers here say the soil is too poor for most crops, but perfect for cows to graze on. Protecting the earth is something farmer John Towers sees as his special responsibility.
I feel I'm very fortunate to be working with the younger generation of my family who are probably more foresighted than I am, and they could see the change coming faster than I could see it coming, and they've driven our business in that direction to face the challenge and to adapt our market to what our consumer is actually looking for.
Feeding the garlic supplement to their 400 cows costs the Towers about €20,000 a year. Ed Towers says the milk will be a part of emissions trading in future, allowing farmers to offset the additional costs. He has many more plans for the future.
I want to put solar panels on, and I want to have electric tractors, and I want to, have a cover over the lagoon so that I can capture the methane and use it to run tractors. All them things cost money, and if we do them all at once, we run out of cash, and then we're a terrible example, even if all them ideas were going to work. And so it's a case of sometimes reining in your ambitions or making sure you've got partnerships with other companies that also have the same kind of values as you.
John Towers says many farmers are old school and reluctant to change. But father and son aim to do everything in their power to make other dairy farmers more climate conscious. And they have one good argument in their favour. Their milk doesn't taste of garlic at all.
According to the European Statistical Office, the average European generated just shy of 180 kilos of packaging waste in 2019. Figures varied from each country, of course, as did the rate of recycling. In many places, a big contributor to the waste heap comes from the food delivery sector. But businesses are starting to take a proactive approach to the issue. Here is this week's Doing Your Bit.
Pizza boxes, beverage cups, and other takeaway trash spill out of the waste bins in many cities. It's a huge burden on the environment because next to none of it can be recycled. 770 tons of such packaging is tossed out every day in Germany alone. But some restaurants and startups have started providing customers with reusable alternatives.
Our regular customers love it. They pay a small deposit, get their food ready to serve, and bring back the tins the next day.
And elsewhere, bowl-shaped containers like these can be borrowed for free via an app. After use, customers have up to 14 days to return them.
The manufacturer guarantees 200 cycles. When they get worn out, they're recycled into a new material.
Here at a grocery store in Cologne, an app releases a bowl from a dispenser, which customers then fill up for themselves. Only the contents are weighed and paid for. After being returned to a collection point, the containers are picked up and taken to be cleaned. For now, initiatives like these are voluntary, but that is set to change. As of next year, restaurants and cafes in Germany will be required to offer their customers reusable containers for food and beverages.
And how about you? If you're also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
The UN World Food Programme says that Somalia faces the very real risk of famine in the coming months. Drought conditions in the Horn of Africa have grown ever worse over the past 3 years. Millions of livestock have perished in Somalia. 30% of households have lost their herds since mid-2021. Even hardy, heat-resistant camels are dying. Now some herders are heading for Somalia's biggest city in the hopes of saving them.
It is breakfast time at the Beda camel farm on the outskirts of the Somali capital, Mogadishu. 1 or 2 animals have found something to chew on, but they are all pretty hungry. All eyes are on the activity at the edge of the enclosure, and the heaps of freshly cut grass, leaves and twigs. Tasty morsels for the ungulans, but also vital to their health. There is nothing to graze on this sandy ground. Hassan Abdirahman Sabriya is the farm manager. A herd this size typically has more room to roam, but space here is limited. You face so many challenges when you bring camels to the city. The animals need to be trained to live on this small area. That requires a lot of patience and experience. The other challenges are finding enough food for the camels in the city and ensuring they are provided the things they would get from the desert. Finally, the gate is opened. Here in the enclosure, there is more than enough for everyone. That wasn't always the case when the herd had to scrounge for food out on the open plains, just as camels here have done for centuries. When the drought struck the countryside where camels traditionally live, there was nothing to graze on and a shortfall of rain. It forced us to move our animals here to the city. Somalia is one of the countries hit particularly hard by climate change. Persistent drought is slowly destroying the traditional grazing lands. The vegetation is dying back and water holes are drying out. Even camels, which can survive long stretches on very little, are dying from thirst or hunger. The despair felt by Hussein Ibrahim Hussein and other herders is growing by the day. Their flocks are shrinking. The camels simply cannot find enough to eat in the bushland of the Lower Shabelle region in eastern Somalia. We herders talk a lot about how to get our camels away from here and find new grazing areas because it hasn't rained in so long. Drought is everywhere. If it gets worse and we can't feed our camels, we have to abandon them and go to the city to save our children and ourselves. Many Somalis are moving to the capital to escape the effects of climate change. Mogadishu's population has doubled to 2.4 million people over the last 20 years. It was in that growing market that Hassan Abdirahman Sabriye recognized an opportunity. Another reason we brought our camels to the city is to provide fresh milk to the people who live in Mogadishu and its surrounding areas. In the past, people have to go to rural areas to get it. Now we can deliver it freshly milked right here in the neighborhood. Milking is done every day at the Beda camel farm, much to the displeasure of the young calves. But business takes precedence. We sell 1 liter of our camel milk for $2. We normally produce 900 to 1,000 liters of camel milk every day. If demand is high, we increase our milk production to meet the needs of our customers. The fresh milk is immediately loaded up and taken to the city. Restaurants and hotels are important customers. Camel milk is very nutritious and packed with vitamins, making it popular not just in Somalia. With business booming, the Beda camel farm can afford to buy concentrate feeds for the animals. It's an important way of making up for drought-related food shortages. Bringing the camels to the city has turned out to be a good move, but not everyone can afford to do the same. So instead, Hussein Ibrahim Hussein plans to move on with his camels in the hope of finding enough food and water elsewhere.
From Somalia on the east coast, we now head to the west coast and the Gambia, the smallest country in mainland Africa. There too, people are struggling to adapt to climate change.
While drought is a major problem in many areas, people who live near rivers may seem fortunate, but increasingly, salt water is seeping into fresh water sources, which of course disrupts the natural ecosystem and even the ability to farm basic crops. Now, one initiative is bringing together scientists and the local people to make a very big difference.
Every change is carefully noted. Each week, Kadiatu Kiyate and Adesina David Davis collect environmental data from the aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems in 6 locations along the Gambia River.
Right now, I'm recording the parameters we have here, which is the temperature, humidity, the wind speed, the wind chill, the air pressure, altitude, dew point, and the wind direction.
The effects of climate change are causing hardship for many who live near the river. For centuries, they have subsisted on small-scale fishing and farming. Mangroves, which filter salt out of the water, made that possible. But due to the rising sea level and extensive droughts, the river's salt content got so high it killed many trees. That's been disastrous for farmers like Fatumata Barrow. We used to harvest rice here, but now the yield is low. When the mangroves were healthy, there were no problems, but they are now dead and our crops are not doing well. Not a lot of research has been done on biodiversity and the environment in the Gambia. So that makes predicting the impact climate change might have on local ecosystems more difficult. That inspired 10 young scientists to launch the GEMS initiative.
GEMS is an acronym for Gambia Environmental Monitoring Systems Project, and it is a research project whereby we're collecting environmental data along the River Gambia to understand the seasonal and yearly fluctuations happening.
But the waterway is almost 1,200 kilometers long, so the institute relies on the support of community-based groups and locals like CD Double. A journalist by trade, Double works as a citizen scientist 20 kilometers from the capital, Banjul.
My role as a citizen data collector is to collect data and then send to them every week, and also train some students along with me to also they can know how to collect data. I decided to participate in this project because if you look at this area, you will see that it's already dead.
Here in the Lower River Division, the dieback is extensive. Mangrove stumps dot an otherwise empty landscape, leaving the coastline exposed. It's no longer possible to maintain fields through tidal irrigation from the river. The loss of the mangroves also means a loss of habitat and breeding ground for fish and other aquatic life. The freshwater fish have moved further upstream. With the help of international NGOs and volunteers, Ansumana Dabo hopes to restore the mangrove forests, but with a different, more robust variety.
Thanks to the data we collect with the Grace Institute, we have been able to know the salinity level of the water. And secondly, we have been able to identify the species of mangrove we have within our ecosystem. They absorb a lot of salt. Unlike before, when there was no tree, salt intrusion is high. But now, hence the mangroves are salt tolerable. They absorb a lot of salt that has made a decrease in salinity level within the women rice field.
Fatumata Barrow, who's been growing rice here for 20 years, hopes the newly planted red mangroves will give her crops a fighting chance. We thank God for the new mangroves along the river. As they grow, less salt will get through. Since August 2021, more than 150,000 mangroves have been planted in the Gambia River Delta in order to conserve the ecosystem. The symbiosis of scientific knowledge and local engagement is bearing fruit.
Quality water is indispensable and essential to life, as are the people who work hard to protect it. That is all for this edition of Eco Africa. It is time for me to bid you farewell from Kampala. I am Sandra Twinaudio, and I will definitely be seeing you again next week.
And I'd just like to remind you that this and other editions of Eco Africa can be viewed online. Drop us a line and tell us how you like the show, or share some of your stories on projects that support the environment where you live. For now, I'm Chris Alem signing off from Nigeria.
No.